together, and our fingertips are going to go forward through it like we're holding a baseball. Before we do forward throwing, we're going to just play around and stretch. Whatever feels good really to your arm. You might have something where this feels good, like it does on me. We've all done this move before. The beauty of these bands is that the band is doing all the work. It's doing all the stretching. You don't have to have any tension in your arm. You might get into this position. Okay, so remember, this is our clip line. We're going to be on this side of the clip line about a foot. We're going to go stride distance with our toes in line. And we're just going to load and extend like we're throwing a baseball. $24, $25. The bottom line is we're getting ready to throw, so we're opening up our arm to get ready to throw. So we just did one set of 25 reps of the forward throwing exercise, but if you were in a cold weather climate, it's the winter time and you weren't able to get outside and throw, you may do 4 sets of 25 reps of the forward throwing exercise to simulate a good throw for the day or a good long toss. Let's say you were having rainouts in the season, same thing. Get your throwing in. You can simulate a good throw by doing a lot of these forward throws with the J-band. It'll keep your arm in a healthy cycle for throwing.
Hi, I'm John Savage, head baseball coach at UCLA Baseball. We have incorporated Jaeger Sports throwing program the last 9 years. Every day in our baseball program, the J-bands are a big part of our daily routine. After stretching, our players go to the J-bands, go through the routine. It helps them get much more flexible, maintain their durability. The program has been a big benefit for our pitchers as well as our position players throughout our program. The players believe in the system, they believe in the routine, they believe in all the stretches. It allows them to become the player that they want to be on the field.
After all of this great preparation is done, we are now in a safe and ideal position to throw. It's a very satisfying feeling, both physically and mentally, to pick up a baseball knowing that you've prepared your arm so thoroughly. It's safe to say that we are huge believers in the concept of warming up to throw rather than throwing to warm up.
The single most important principle about our approach to throwing is to listen to your arm. Only your arm knows on any given day how much it wants to throw, how far it wants to go, and how aggressive it wants to be. Therefore, it is of utmost importance to get to know your arm.
That's why our throwing program doesn't have any parameters when it comes to time or distance. We want you to go out as slowly as possible and allow the arm to breathe and open up at its own pace. There's no reason to be in a rush and deprive your arm of getting healthier and stronger. You'd be surprised how much your arm can evolve simply by giving it more time to throw rather than less. This part of getting to know your arm and letting it dictate what it wants from day to day is what this program is all about. Our long toss program can be broken down into 2 phases, stretching out and pulling down, or what we call the strengthening phase. The first phase of our long toss program is what we call the stretching out phase. The goal of the stretching out phase is to simply allow the arm to stretch out or open up as slowly as possible. That's one of the main reasons why we want you to throw with arc on the way out, so the arm can stretch out at different angles and gain optimal range of motion. As we have our players moving away from their throwing partner, we actually use words like stretch, loose, relaxed, free, and massage. We simply want the arm to first crawl, then walk, and then jog before we get into the more aggressive phase of our program, the pull down or strengthening phase.
It takes about 3 weeks of stretching the arm out to progressively further distances to build a base. This is with throwing more or less 4 to 5 times a week. This slow progression of opening the arm up and building endurance best positions the arm for the second phase of our throwing program, the pull down or strengthening phase. This is the more aggressive part of our throwing program. But for these first 3 weeks, we are focused only on stretching the arm out. Our focus is not on any type of pulling down or aggressive throwing.
The second phase of our throwing program is called the pull down or strengthening phase. The way the pull down phase works is that once you've stretched your arm out to its maximum distance for the day, we want you to come back and toward your throwing partner approximately 10 feet per throw. As an example, for a player that's out to 300 feet, it will take about 24 throws to get back into 60 feet. But know you can take as many throws as you want to come back into your throwing partner. There are 2 essential principles we want you to focus on during the pull down phase. The importance of not decelerating or slowing down the arm and missing your target lower rather than higher. As you get closer to your partner, the tendency is to ease up or decelerate your arm so that you don't throw it over your partner's head.
This is exactly what we don't want you to do during the pull down phase. We want you to maintain the same effort of your maximum distance throw as you get closer to your partner. That means the closer you get, the more you're going to have to aim lower or use what we call focal points. Otherwise, the ball is most likely going to go over your partner's head. We would rather you miss 30 feet in front of your partner than 1 inch over your partner's head.
Focal points are very powerful because they give the mind a specific endpoint, which helps with concentration and commitment. Focal points also give you an intention, and this intention helps to get your body in the right position mechanically to complete its task. When your body is in the right position, you can get better extension and accelerate down to your target more easily. This is one of the main goals of the pull down phase, to use focal points to train you how to finish to your target without slowing your arm down.
At first, it may be hard not to decelerate because most players are used to easing up on the way back into their throwing partner. But once you learn how to maintain your furthest throw all the way back into your partner, you will tend to experience the benefits of better carry, life, and explosiveness on the ball. This is the magic of learning how to maintain or compress the freedom and extension of your furthest throw in the stretching out phase into shorter distances.
The pull down phase creates a number of important benefits. It teaches the athlete how to accelerate rather than slow the arm down. It teaches the body how to translate the angle of throwing uphill into throwing downhill because the body has to use leverage, athleticism, and concentration in order to compress such a large distance into such a short space. This is especially beneficial for pitchers because they don't have the benefit of the slope of the mound to help them out. Finally, it teaches the mind how to be relaxed and the body balanced because it would be very difficult to compress that much distance into such a short distance without great balance and relaxation. Now that we've established the 2 phases of our long toss program, let's get started. Now that we've laid down the framework of the entire throwing program, we will take you through the 2 main phases in sequential order, the stretching out phase and the pull down phase. Keep in mind that this video will show you a condensed version of the throwing program lasting approximately 10 minutes. It is important to note that our players that are at the high school, college, or professional level will typically need at least 15 to 30 minutes on a normal long toss day. Even though our players' arms have already gone through a thorough arm circle and J-band workout, notice how they will still begin their most basic warm-up throws with a minimal amount of effort. In fact, as you watch the entire throwing program, notice how the players throw in a loose and relaxed manner. Like any other muscle group, we want the arm to stretch out slowly and progressively. This is also why they will throw the ball with arc rather than on a line as they move away from their throwing partner. We want the arm to get the benefit of stretching out at different angles. This is the safest way to open up the arm and best positions it for the second or more aggressive phase of our throwing program, the pull down or strengthening phase, which will be addressed in a moment. Let's watch now as the players gradually begin to move away from each other. Notice how loose and relaxed their arm action is, and that they are throwing the ball with arc rather than on a line from the onset. As the players begin to move away from each other, remember that there isn't a set amount of throws or a set amount of time before they move back. They're going to simply listen to their arm and allow it to dictate the pace. The easiest way to gauge when it is time to move back is simply by noticing that your ball is starting to push your partner back. Therefore, it's not unusual for you to stay at the same spot for a number of throws or move back as little as a couple of feet per throw. In either case, the arm will tell you when it's time to move back. Once our players get out to approximately 90 feet, you will notice that they will begin to implement a drill we call the hip drill. Because the feet are stationary, the hip drill provides a number of benefits including direction, alignment, and extension. Let's watch now as the players make a few throws in the hip drill. Once our players have taken the hip drill out to approximately 90 feet, we will then get their legs even more involved by implementing a crow hop. Crow hopping is a very important aspect of throwing because it takes pressure off of the arm by putting more emphasis on the legs. It is also helpful for loading, balance, momentum, and athleticism. We encourage you to incorporate a crow hop at around 90 feet at the latest and maintain this crow hop throughout the duration of the throwing program. We also suggest that you crow hop off of the back leg. So for right-handers, load off of the right leg, and left-handers off of the left leg. Here is a great example of how we prefer you crow hop. Let's watch now as our players begin to increase their distance beyond 90 feet. Again, keep in mind that there isn't a set amount of throws. Notice how loose and relaxed their arm action still is. Again, we tell our players to think stretch rather than throw as they work away from their partner. All that is really happening is that they are throwing with a little more arc and a little more effort as they increase their distance. Also notice that they are not only crow hopping off of their back leg, but their crow hop gets more athletic and aggressive the further out they get. Even as they begin to move into distances of 120 feet, 180 feet, 240 feet, and eventually their furthest throws for the day, they are still focusing on stretching their arms out as they move away from their throwing partner. Once the players feel that they have reached their maximum distance for the day, they are ready for the second part of our throwing program, the pull down or strengthening phase. Knowing when your arm has reached its maximum distance and when it's time to transition back in toward your throwing partner is based on any one of a number of signs. These signs include fatigue, the ball is no longer reaching your partner on a fly for a few throws in a row, direction, the ball is consistently going offline, mechanics, your mechanics are being significantly compromised or exaggerated, and instincts. You simply know instinctively that it's time to come in. Once our players have made their last throw in the stretching out phase and know that they are ready to come back in, they are ready for the pull down phase. Again, the pull down phase works as follows. Move back in toward your throwing partner approximately 10 feet per throw. Maintain the same effort of your furthest throw and be sure that your throws miss lower than higher. Remember, there isn't a set number of throws to make. We have found that 10-foot increments is gradual enough to help players make good adjustments both physically and mentally with the release point as they get closer to their partner. These two key principles of the pull-down phase, maintaining the effort of your furthest throw and missing lower than higher, promote a number of significant benefits. 1. It trains players how to accelerate rather than decelerate. 2. It teaches players how to get to know the release point because they have to make accurate throws from various points on the field. 3. It helps players learn how to use leverage and athleticism to their advantage because they have to translate the angle of throwing uphill into the angle of throwing downhill. And 4. It promotes mechanical repeatability because mechanics can more easily repeat when the effort behind the ball and the intention of where the ball is going are constants. It is also important to note that the arm is in the safest position possible for explosive throwing because it has been optimally warmed up and stretched out. As the players get into the final stages of the pull downs, we begin to introduce what we call focal points. Focal points are extremely valuable because they give the mind an intention or somewhere specific to commit to. When the mind has a specific intention, throwing can get very consistent and repeatable, especially when your effort behind the ball is maintained. Therefore, when pulling down, always have a focal point, always maintain the effort of your furthest throw, and always commit this effort to your focal point. We call these constants, and you may be very surprised at how free and accurate you become knowing there's nothing else to think about except these three principles. Now that the players have made their way back in as close as possible without putting each other at risk, let's look at some of the mechanical benefits that are gained from the pull-down phase. Because you are compressing your furthest throw of the day into 60 feet and having the ball end up consistently at knee height or lower, you are promoting ideal mechanics because a player has to be very sound and efficient mechanically to pull this off. For example, the front side cannot fly open, nor can the head. The balance must be optimal or the arm will lag. The mind must be quiet, patient, and focused. And players must learn how to get over their front side with great extension if they are to compress this massive distance into such a low endpoint. This is also why throwing uphill can be used to the player's advantage by promoting a better downhill plane. It takes a lot of leverage, athleticism, and explosiveness to translate the angle up from the stretching out phase into the angle down of the pull down phase. For position players, we suggest that after you finish your pull downs for the day, that you go back out to your position specific distance and work on your pull downs from that distance for consistency and accuracy purposes. For example, catchers and infielders may want to go back out to around 120 feet, and outfielders may want to go back out to 250 feet or so. We also suggest that all position players, assuming you are in great shape, pull down most, if not all days, because you don't have to deal with the recovery period issues that pitchers may have from throwing off of the mound. Again, listen to your arm. For pitchers, only you will know how many pull downs you choose to do at 60 feet or so on a given day. Depending upon what kind of shape you are in, whether or not it's the off-season or in-season, a pen day or a game day, your arm will have different needs. We have found that in the off-season, pitchers may want to throw an additional 1 or 2 sets of 10 pull downs at 60 feet, depending upon what kind of shape they are in. We find that the better shape players are in, the more reps they're able to do. Also, keep in mind that once the arm has been well conditioned, it will more than likely need to both stretch out and pull down on mound days, because that is what it has been conditioned to do, and this is what the arm typically wants to do in order to optimize its workload that day. Remember, only your arm knows on a given day how much it wants to throw, how far it wants to go out, and whether or not it wants to pull down. What you do from day to day will often depend on what kind of shape you're in, what kind of throwing you did the day before, and whether or not it's the off-season or in-season. Ultimately, our experience tells us that the more consistent you get with your arm care program, the more educated you become about the correct way to build your base, and the more you understand when and how often to integrate the pull-down phase of our throwing program, the healthier, stronger, and more accurate your arm will be. We are definitely of the philosophy, the more you use it correctly, the more it produces. Remember, all arms are different. Therefore, always fall back on the most important principle of our throwing program. Listen to your arm. Please note that as you make your final throws in the pull-down phase, be careful how close you get. You may be surprised how much life and carry you have on the ball once you've learned how to pull down correctly. Therefore, avoid getting so close to your partner that it becomes dangerous. It's better to be 65 or 70 feet away, with the peace of mind of knowing you can be as explosive as you want without endangering your throwing partner. The key to our throwing program is that we place a major emphasis on arm care and arm conditioning. Though we'd love for everyone to gain a great deal of velocity, our first priority is arm health, endurance, recovery period, and repeatability. Velocity is a byproduct of all these qualities.
Remember, the more intimate you get with your arm and the more often you spend time conditioning it properly, the more it's going to tend to grow and evolve, the more it's going to give back.
Therefore, avoid situations that place time, arc, or distance restrictions on you. These are surefire ways to put the arm in a position to regress and be vulnerable to breaking down.
Ultimately, the arm is capable of doing amazing things, just as runners can build up their conditioning to run marathons. But you must make your arm a priority, whether you're a pitcher or not. Always make the time to do your arm care program prior to picking up a baseball, and make time to long toss as often as your arm permits, especially the stretching out phase.
At the end of the day, throwing can be such an enjoyable act, especially when your arm feels good every day. Let's face it, it's not fun to show up to the field when your arm is sore or hurt. This game is far more enjoyable when your arm feels great. Having a healthy arm is having peace of mind. So give your arm a chance to thrive by spending more time with it. Give it a chance to thrive because you put the work into it. Give it a chance to thrive because it wants to throw.